If you're looking to improve the quality of your video work, the best advice I can give you is to practice different lighting techniques. If the main function of a camera is to capture light, I think it only makes sense to learn how to control that light. Today I'm going to show you how I took a boring shot like this and turned it into this, all by just putting a little more thought into my lighting. Let me start off by saying how you light a particular scene is subject to the look that you're going for. There's no one way to light anything in particular. In fact, there are probably a million ways that you could light one scene. Today we're going to take a look at lighting in a controlled environment. This is a pretty basic talking head interview style setup utilizing 3-point lighting, but the principles can be used in any type of shot where you need to light a subject. In this diagram, we see the subject positioned in the middle of the room. Once the camera is set up and framed, you can begin placing your lights. One of the most utilized lighting techniques is 3-point lighting, where 3 lights are used to light the subject. It not only gives definition and contrast to the subject, but also helps with separating the subject from the background. The first of the 3 lights is the key light, which is the main light on the subject and typically the brightest in the shot. The fill light, which is also called a kicker, eye light, or catch light, is placed on the opposite side of the camera from the key light and is used to fill in shadows on the subject for a less contrasty image. The backlight, aka hair, rim, or shoulder light, is usually placed behind the subject, opposite the key light, and is used to separate the subject from the background. That's the basic breakdown of 3-point lighting. Another light I like to add is a background light, which can be used to make the shot a little more interesting. Some call this 4-point lighting. Let's take a look at all of this practically. Anytime I have a shoot, the first 2 things I do are set up my camera and my key light. In this shot, I'm using the Aperture 300D Mark I as my key light. It's off axis at about 45 degrees and angled down at about 45 degrees, giving the Rembrandt look that is used quite a bit in portrait photography and cinema. You'll usually be able to spot this look when you see the triangle of light on the face opposite the key light. To achieve a softer light, I'm using a DIY 4x4 shower curtain diffuser. To keep the light from spilling onto the background, I'm using a moving blanket from Harbor Freight and a piece of foam board to cut the light. Sometimes lighting a scene requires taking away light or cutting light. It's all about control. Once I'm happy with the framing of the shot and the look of the key light, I move on to the fill light. For a fill light, I'm actually just reflecting the key light onto my face from the opposite side with a 5-in-1 reflector. This technique is also known as bouncing light. It eliminates adding an extra physical light by reflecting an existing light. In this shot, it isn't making a huge difference, but it's just enough to lift the shadows and lower the contrast of the image. After the fill light is set up, I move on to the backlight. There are 3 hair lights in this shot. There's an Arri 150 over my right shoulder, there's a Quasar T8 right above me, and there's an Aperture Mini 20D that's gelled with a CTB gel on my left shoulder. In these shots, you can see how each individual light affects the subject and gives more definition. It really helps separate the subject from the background. Once you have the subject lit with 3-point lighting, you can move on to the background light. Like I said before, I personally like adding background light because it makes the shot just look a little more interesting. In this shot, I'm using 3 background lights. The Aperture 120D with a CTB gel, an Aperture MC, and an IKEA China ball as a practical. A practical light is any light that can be seen in the frame. Here's a look at what each one of these lights looks like by itself and how it helps to shape the image. And just to circle back to hair light for a minute, the hair lights that I'm using in this shot are motivating the background lights. Motivated lighting is when a light in the scene imitates a light source that is in the same scene. In this scene, I'm motivating the warmer light from the China ball with the Arri and the blue light from the gelled 120D with the gelled Mini 20D. And that's just about it. That's a basic breakdown of the lighting technique that I use the majority of the time for any of my shoots. Before I go, I want to answer a few questions that I received on social media this week, and the first question comes in from Luke. Luke asked, what's the biggest element to the lighting? Like I said before, when lighting a subject, the key light is arguably the main light to light the subject or talent. But after watching this video, I hope you can see that there's not one biggest element to lighting and how each of the lights works together to complement each other. The next question came in from Colton, and he asked, when should I use a softbox and do I need one? The simple answers would be when you want soft light and yes. A softbox like this is a type of lighting modification that diffuses a light source, making the shadows less harsh. It basically takes the light and spreads the intensity over a larger area. There's definitely a good bit more involved than that, but here's a look at the difference. Going back to my setup, here's a shot with the 4x4 diffusion and a shot without. With, without. I think the easiest way to think about diffusion is to picture shadows that are cast on a sunny day versus a cloudy day. On a sunny day, shadows are very defined, but on a cloudy day, they're very soft and sometimes almost non-existent. Thanks for the questions, and thanks for watching my basic lighting tutorial. If you still have more questions or if there's anything I didn't cover, feel free to leave a comment. I would love to connect. I could seriously talk about lighting all day.